Joining us now to discuss more is the director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett. Kevin, I'm so grateful to have you on the show. So thank you very much for being here. I do want to start with some of this news from the president, where, and we also heard Howard Lutnick, the cabinet official, say that there was an unnamed deal that was close. The president is talking about India. Can you just tell us in a clear way, what deal are we close to, and where do things stand with India? Is that the deal in question?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple deals that are extraordinarily close, especially with our Asian trading partners. Secretary Lutnick and Bessent and I were in the Oval yesterday discussing it with the president, and we've seen sketches of deals. I'm not going to put, deals that aren't signed in front of the American people until the president's ready to do that, and the foreign governments are ready to do it. But the thing that I can say that I've been astonished at is how much access to foreign markets U.S. producers are going to have because of these deals. The president was really impressed with the status of the negotiations, but especially impressed by the fact that finally they're putting the American worker first, and they're opening up their markets for our products in a way that nobody ever thought was possible.
One big focus, of course, Kevin, is this question about auto tariffs as well, and there has been an order in the works. Of course, the president going to Michigan today. Has the president signed the order on auto tariffs?
Yes, and in fact, I got an update on this, and so perhaps I'm breaking a little bit of news, but I wanted to know for sure that the executive orders were signed while he was traveling to Michigan. Of course, signing them on the way to Michigan is in part what he's up to, because it's all about getting workers back to work in the places where we make things in America. And so, yes, the two executive orders on autos were signed. I was informed. I don't think I was informed incorrectly by someone on Air Force One.
So this obviously, all of the activity on tariffs has particularly focused as well on China, because the volume of goods that come from China is so high. There have been serious questions about the way that talks are continuing between the U.S. and China, because of course the Chinese have denied speaking to U.S. officials. And let's kind of go through this a little bit layer by layer. Has the president spoken with President Xi of China about this?
The president is clear that he's talked with President Xi, but what those conversations might entail, obviously that's up to the president and President Xi to reveal. But I can say that the president has asked Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to lead the trade negotiations with China. As the top economic official, as the Treasury Secretary is, the heir to Alexander Hamilton, he's exactly the right person for this job, and we're looking forward to making progress and reporting on progress soon.
Has the Treasury Secretary spoken with his counterpart, his Chinese counterpart, recently?
The Treasury Secretary will inform you about those matters in the fullness of time.
Okay. Can you give us shed any light on officials that you may have spoken with in your role? And can you really clarify for us, you say that Bessent is doing at China. Do you know the list of other countries in his portfolio as compared to Howard Lutnick, who of course has been talking about what we think is this deal with India and what you may be involved in? There's a little bit of a lack of clarity on who's doing what.
Okay, so first I'll make it clear that as director of the National Economic Council, I'm not engaged actively in negotiations, because that's what Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, and Jamieson Greer are doing. That's what the president has assigned them to do, and he's allocated the jobs amongst them in a way that some of the things are public and some of them are not public. But Jamieson Greer has gotten 19, I believe, written offers on the reciprocal tariffs. Secretary Lutnick is working really hard on the 232 tariffs, which are the ones for national security, and Secretary Bessent is working with our Asian counterparts and making an enormous amount of progress, all of them. And the trade team is 100% behind the president's policies, and I'm there, but I'm not an active negotiator.
Fair enough, and I appreciate you providing that clarity that you were able to provide there, because again, it has been, of course, a little bit confusing. It still remains a little bit confusing, but let's change gears. I want to talk to you about Jeff Bezos, of course, the president there discussing his phone call with Jeff Bezos. Pretty remarkable that a U.S. company that wants to be transparent with consumers about why they're paying the prices that they are would then be said to be political. Is this political interference in the free market?
No. First of all, I got to say that I'm really glad to have a president that if he notices something that needs to be fixed for American workers in the U.S. economy, that he can pick up the phone, they pick it up right away, and then he gets to the bottom of it. The bottom line is that if we charge a tariff on a foreign country, then if they have inelastic supply to us, then the supplier in that country is going to bear the tariff, not the U.S. consumer. And the idea that Amazon is going to say that the tariff is passing through to the consumer means that they don't understand economics. And so you covered it as a debacle. I did think it was a debacle for whoever's doing economics at Amazon because they were assuming something that's contrary to basic economics about who bears the tariff. And it was correct for Jeff Bezos to apologize for it and to correct the record that Amazon, whoever did it, made a big mistake. I wonder if they'll have a job tomorrow.
We're looking at live pictures right now of the president landing in Michigan. So of course, obviously, if he starts to make comments, Kevin, I'll have to jump in and cut us off. This does appear to be the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, meeting him. Clearly, a very windy day there in Michigan. Kevin, the administration, the president, has acknowledged that there's going to be some short-term pain here. And while I understand the argument that you are trying to make about who pays the cost of tariffs, every other Republican in the decade I spent covering the Hill was very eager to tell me that tariffs were a tax that were paid by consumers and not by anyone else. And the reality is that's part of the pain that Americans are likely to bear. So I think my question to you is, if at the end of the day it's companies that are passing this along, how much short-term pain are voters willing to endure?
No, talking about it as pain is just absolutely incorrect. And the way to think about it is, if you think that when China entered the WTO is going to be so good because you're getting all these cheap Chinese products in America, then you would expect that Americans would be better off, that their standard of living would go up. And what we saw was after China entered the WTO for 15 years in a row, real wages declined. They were down $1,200 over the next 15 years because the cheap goods were overpowered by the reduction in labor demand and the really bad wages. President Trump came in with these. Let me finish this. President Trump came in the previous term, and he pushed policies just like these that were supply side, that created jobs for Americans, and real wages went up by $6,500 in the next 3 years, $6,500 per year, and that's more than you got for the previous 16 years. And so what he's doing is he's taking the policies that work for the American worker, and he's just doubling down on them. And the idea that that's pain is just incorrect. He's got his eye on the horizon, and it's going to be better than the first term, for sure, because these are stronger policies now that we have even more conviction, even conviction on the Hill. We met with the congressional leaders, Scott Bessent and I, yesterday, and everybody's 100% behind the president's agenda, and especially behind right now the reconciliation package that's going to deliver big tax cuts for American workers and onshore a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, I understand that.
interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I appreciate it. You're making the long-term argument, which absolutely voters also tell us they want to give Trump a chance, right? When we've gone to our John King was out, talking with swing voters, and they will say, well, this might work. Some of them are willing to give him a chance. Again, that's why I said the short-term pain of this, because we also have Apollo Global, the chief economist there, said that we are facing potentially COVID-like shortages within months because of container ships that are parked in Chinese ports. Like, are Americans going to tolerate that?
We are not seeing any evidence of COVID-like shortages. The bottom line is that we had a jobs report. The last jobs report that we had, we'll get the next one on Friday, was way above expectation because American employers are creating jobs in America again. If they create jobs in America, then Americans have wages in their pockets. And I don't think that Americans want to give President Trump a chance because they like the way he looks on TV, although I think he's great on TV. They're giving President Trump a chance because they know that his policies worked for them. They looked at their wallets and they voted for him, and they're looking at their wallets after President Biden's inflation. They're saying, wait, what happened? And President Trump's going in and he's going to fix the problem, and he's fixing it already. I don't think you need to talk about short-term pain. The last jobs report was fantastic.
So before I let you go, you also mentioned, of course, the reconciliation bill, which, of course, is we often shorthand it here for our viewers as Trump's agenda on the Hill. Some people call it the tax cut package. There has been a suggestion that some Republicans in Congress may be open to raising the top tax bracket rate, or rather allowing it to revert back to where it was before the old Trump tax cuts, to make that highest tax bracket rate higher than it is right now. Does the administration want Republicans on Capitol Hill to raise the top bracket rate?
No, 100% not. President Trump has made it clear that he doesn't think that that should be on the table. So it's 100% not on the table to do that. But what is on the table, I could just say, because Secretary Bessent and I, after meeting with the president, met with the majority leader, the Speaker of the House, and the rest of the team up there on the Hill, and it was astonishing, the agreement. And you would have to concur that it's astonishing this pace at which the tax bills are moving forward. Last time we didn't really get it until the fall, and here we are looking at maybe early summer, everything being passed. And that's really what President Trump has been able to accomplish this time, because everything is working so smoothly. You mentioned at the beginning, it was one thing I disagreed about, that you think what we've been doing is shocking. I don't think you should be shocked, because what we've been doing is exactly what President Trump promised he would do during the campaign, and now he's delivering for all of us.